All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Bucket Bros. It has been way too long. We have so much to get into. Today, we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire episode, have a lot of topics to cover. Gosh, has it been since Christmas that I last talked to you? That's
New
unacceptable.
Year's,
I'm so sorry.
New Year's
Oh,
Eve,
okay. Well, even so. Come on.
too
I got to
long.
get my stuff together. Uh, uh, I'm
And s-
Bobby. And this is Ron. Uh, we host this podcast together. Who's the
and
host?
we
Who's the
didn't we
co-host?
didn't mean to coordinate our clothing together either, but it happens.
Yeah, I told him to change, but he didn't listen to me. No. I like the red. I like the red today. Bulls colors. You said Rockets colors. Windy City Bulls colors.
Oh yeah, Windy
We'll
City
take it.
Bulls colors. Oh yeah, big
Our one and only
fans.
G League insider gotta
Oh
sport
yeah,
the colors today. But
yeah.
yeah, man,
Got to
a
get the
lot has
merch.
happened since we've had a chance to take a deep dive. Russell Westbrook and Jokic have triple doubled once again in the same season. First pair of teammates to ever do that. We're going to get more into the Nuggets later if you can hang out all the way till the end of the episode.
We're talking about the
Um,
Grizzlies. Ja Morant. Are they gonna make it happen in the West? I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it. Um, Bronny is getting All Star votes, and in G League setting records. What else? I don't know. There's lots of basketball. We got so much to talk about. Um, it's
let's not
great to be
delay. Let's
back.
not delay any further.
But
Yes,
let's get
yes,
into it.
folks.
Here we go.
All right, and now we're going to jump into some fast break news. Ronnie appears to have procured a list of topics for today that I have never seen. He handwrote them in his secret journal. So I guess I'll let you take it away, Ronnie. Fire away.
Yeah, I got and my secret journal creaks open. So I got a bunch of random stuff. You know how my brain is. It's whenever I kind of see something, and this is all just mishmash. So I'm just kind of curious to get your reaction on all of these kind of takes and ideas that I saw. And one of these, which is funny because probably about a week before this first one happened, I didn't realize that teams could have a zero and a double zero on the court at the same time. I was not aware of that. That kind of blew my mind when that was like, oh, Halliburton and Mathern. I was like, okay, I was like, you're both zero, but I guess you're double zero. So that kind of set me back. And then, honestly, a few days after that, I see the announcement that the Pacers have the lowest numbered, like numerical jersey numbers ever. They had a double zero, zero, one, two, and three started the game. It's never been done before. The lowest number you can get, six. So, any thoughts on that? Were you aware of that, or do
That
you
one,
know why that's
I
okay?
think I've never, it had never really occurred to me that the double zero would be different than the zero. I do find it kind of strange, but sure, if they'll allow it, then whatever. Heck,
Yeah.
if they want to let somebody's number be 999, go for it. Go crazy. Just
Would
as
you
long as they're different.
would you allow negative numbers?
Okay. Well, I mean, we don't have to get too mathematical on this. Let's try to stick to positive integers here. I guess zero. Does it? Let's
Exactly.
let's let's stick to real numbers. No imaginary numbers. So, by the way, it's Matherin. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks. You're doing this on purpose.
I'm gonna, yeah. If I hope there's a silent G in some people's names today that it just really get you off. Yeah.
And we'll have to make
But no,
chicken
no, no.
noodle.
I thought it was funny that and it never occurred to me too that the Pacers have such. I don't really pay attention to jersey numbers. If there's ever like a
No.
trivia I see this on during the games a lot. Like during like the breaks of the game, fans will come down and have to like do little trivia based on like old jersey numbers and say like who's that player. I would lose that every single time. So yeah, I like never pay attention to jersey numbers. They change, obviously. Like you can change your number from year to year if you wanted to. But no, that was kind of cool. It was kind of an interesting little thing that happened.
Yeah. So the next one that I had on here, and you just before we came on air made the bold proclamation, and this is a preview for everybody. We're going to do a full episode on the NBA All Star voting. Apparently, I was not aware of this, but that's news to you and to me and everybody that's out there. Um, but I did find it funny that Bronny received 8,000 All Star votes, and good for him. I think that's funny. I can probably guarantee you there's no other G League player that's got that many votes. I definitely, I realize I have it written down here, G League Insider. I probably need to know that before I came on here, so I will look up that the next time we talk. So yeah, I'm gonna mute you on anything All Star related because we will get to that later. Um,
Perfect.
the next kind of topic I have, and hopefully we can kind of rein ourselves in on this, and this maybe we can talk about this more later on, um, was the Jimmy Butler situation down in Miami and the drama and the everybody thinks he's going to Memphis or to the Spurs or to the Suns or to the Lakers. And so there's all of these different spots that everybody thinks Jimmy's going to go, and Riley keeps saying he's not going to trade him or that Jimmy doesn't want to go, and then he goes out and makes this defiant press conference that the joy is gone on court, he wants to leave. And then I will drizzle a little Zion sprinkle. Is he going to get traded and stuff like that? So, what are your thoughts on Jimmy and Zion on the trade bubble? And I'll give you like 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I'm not the first person to say that the greatest likelihood is Jimmy's going to end up back on the Heat, just because somebody making that much money this late in their career, it's going to be really hard to move that contract, especially as, eh, well, not necessarily expiring because he does have the player option for next year of, I believe, 52 million and change, and then the expectation that he's going to make something similar to that for 2 years to follow based on an extension, which I'm not sure a lot of teams are either willing or in a good place to offer him. Um, there are definitely a number of teams that I feel like you can say like in a perfect world, if they could just make this work and Jimmy is on that team now, yeah, of course he would make them better and he would fit their culture. But yeah, I mean the making the actual trade work, I'd like to see it happen. I've even thought like, man, could OKC make this work? But
Well, you've
as
said,
much
and
as
we're
they
both
have.
wearing their color, the Rockets. You've mentioned them a couple times too, that they're in need of that number one. I don't know if he's like a 1B to what I think what you were ideally saying that they need. Like, I think an older Jimmy doesn't really fit what I think the Rockets are looking for to move forward. And same with OKC, Memphis maybe. That's why I feel like the Suns seems like the best fit, where there's older guys there. Where just to me it makes more sense. But if I was in as the GM, but yeah, I didn't mean to stomp on your time there.
No, not at all. And the only way the Suns are getting Jimmy Butler is if Bradley Beal waives his no trade clause and another team wants to take on Bradley Beal's contract for 2 years after this one. So, and that's the problem is unless you are the best player on a team or are like a really good 1B, if you're making that amount of money, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it with the new rules, with the new CBA for teams to take on these contracts. So there's still some bad contracts floating out around there. Not to say that there's ever going to be bad contracts or never going to be bad contracts moving forward, but I do feel like it's going to get a little, teams are going to get a little pickier moving forward because they're going to be forced to. Maybe a good thing for the league overall. But yeah, no, I mean, I just put it in the trade machine and get back to me because I just don't see exactly where Jimmy Butler can land, at least comfortably for both
No,
parties.
You're making sense. I'm curious to see what the next couple of weeks kind of shake out for. I feel like we're going to see other little minor trades that kind of happen here before the deadline. And one, I'm treading the line again here. Um, one I've definitely lost money on before. Paolo Banchero is back for the Orlando Magic. He was supposed to come back when they played the Timberwolves, but they had him came back the next day. Um, I have not seen how he's looked. Have you been able to catch any of his games? I think he had a pretty decent first game, but I haven't caught any after that. But it's good to see at least he came back from an oblique injury, and then they're hoping. I think it's Franz is the one who has the oblique injury as well. Correct?
Yeah. Both with the obliques, both on the same side. But yeah. Paulo, he came back with a little bit of a bang there. I'm trying to see how many games in total he has played since returning. I will be honest, I have not had a chance to watch a lot of Paulo minutes
Probably
since he's
three.
returned. So 3 games, and boy, he's putting up numbers since then. I mean, the Magic have lost 2 of the 3 games that he's played. But yeah, I mean, it looks like he really hasn't lost a beat since he was injured. Turning the ball over a lot, but maybe some sloppy stuff to start, and hopefully smooths out the wrinkles as he gets fully back into his conditioning. I mean, you're happy to see that the Magic are. I know that they haven't been winning a majority of their games lately, but you are happy to see them stay afloat enough in the East, in part because they're in the East. But anticipating these guys' return, because that's going to be big for them. Early in the season, we definitely saw them as a rising team, a legitimate playoff contender, especially for the conference that they're in right now, and having had one of the top 3 defenses all year, they could make some noise, and they can upset some of these other teams. Maybe maybe even some older, slower teams. We'll see how it translates to the playoffs. But yeah, definitely anticipating Franz's return. Hopefully, just overall a healthy enough team to actually do some damage later on. But yeah, happy to see Paulo back. He does go by Bancaro. I don't know if I'm going to even fault you on that one, just because the Banchero uh, version of his pronunciation of his name was thrown around. That was actually a topic on like
Okay.
legitimate.
I was
Yeah,
just
like
trying to make sure I got rid of the bland because I was doing the Blanchero there for a while. So Bancaro, Bancaro,
yeah,
Bancaro.
yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, the Magic are in fifth place in the East currently, 23 and 19. So yeah, it's pretty impressive when like what is that? At least 3 of your top players go down. Jalen Suggs is still out.
Yeah.
Well, it's like 5 of your top 7 players go down. So um, I definitely think, and I've already forgotten his name. Um, the Orlando Magic coach has Jamal Mosley has been in the Coach of the Year consideration, just because he's managed to keep that team in a not even like a play-in spot. They're in fifth place like right now, so if they can get their guys back and be healthy and actually hit the ground running in like February, March, my goodness, I'm hoping so because I predicted them to probably make the conference finals. So I need them to get everything going, and the way that this looks, that's a good step in a good step in the right direction for that.
And as
Um,
promised, it has been the Cole Anthony show of late. Took a little bit for him. He had a 35-point game, followed by a lot of quiet games, or surrounded by a lot of quiet games rather. And but yeah, tune into some
and you'll get
solid
some
Cole
Goga.
Anthony action.
You got and get go get
Yes,
your
you'll
Goga
get a
in.
lot of Goga.
He's been like the stalwart, the steady guy as this team goes. But anyways, I could talk about the Magic for a while. The next one, and you're gonna have to fill me in on this because I'm not particularly sure of how this stat works out. but this is my one Timberwolves nugget for the night. I don't have any other T-Wolves notes to talk about unless you bring it up. But Joe Ingles has a plus 1,728 per 36 since November. And that's because he has two incredible inbounds passes that were fouls immediately after he passed the ball in. And so somehow that math turns into him having a plus 1,728. I don't know, per 36. So he's one of the uh, top getters in that category somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess if you play a really solid 5 seconds of basketball and then
It's not
are
even.
taken
It's
out of
like
the game,
it's like
yeah,
1.7 collective of total time.
then
He's
yeah,
not even
yeah, and then
stepped
you
on the
multiply
court.
that by how many thousands until you get the per 36 minutes. Yeah, you're gonna have the best per 36 in the league.
So
That is
I just,
interesting, though. That's kind of funny. High level stuff by Joe Ingles.
oh yeah, still doing it. Another one, and we've talked about this before, and I just saw this yesterday. But Mikal Bridges is the Brett Favre of the NBA, having never missed a game in his career. And I think it was last night he played his 555th game in a row in the NBA, which is impressive. And we're not even talking about the amount of minutes that he's playing for the Knicks this year. The other thing that I saw was like the top 3 minutes played together, and it's like the top 6 combos are all on the Knicks. So it's obviously, we both know Thibodeau is going to run these guys 40 minutes a game the whole year. So it's it's usually like an 8-man squad, usually 7, maybe 8 that play a ton of minutes. So, and then a couple
Yeah,
stragglers.
yeah, no, I think I saw that same clip and got a good chuckle out of it because it's basically just Thibodeau lineups for guys who have played the most minutes together this year. And yeah, I mean the Mikal Bridges thing, obviously a fun story. I mean, granted, one of those games was when the Nets were clearly tanking last year, and he checked in for what, like a minute, just to keep the streak going. So some of them have been a little bit questionable, but it's not that he wouldn't have been available to play that game. Just for the record, and gosh, I can't believe the number. You said 555.
Yep.
Is that what he's at right now? You threw the number out there. Am I okay?
Yeah.
I would like to see. I'm trying to pull up a list. It's hard to come by. I'm trying to pull up a list of most consecutive NBA games played streaks. I do know that if you tune into Orlando Magic games, occasionally they'll throw up a graphic of at least streaks to start a career, and everybody else on that list hasn't played for like 40 years. I mean, he's definitely in rare company, just because you don't see that anymore. You just really don't see guys who are healthy and dedicated to just playing every single game. So yeah, I mean, credit to him. I think I think he's been getting a lot of flack this year for his shooting, his seemingly inability to get to the free throw line. It's been kind of an interesting year for Mikal Bridges, but he's had a lot of great games, and there's still a lot of good things to say about him. So keep it up.
Kind of following in line with that Thibodeau theme, um, 1-4-25 was D Rose night. It was the Knicks versus the Bulls in Chicago. They announced D Rose #1 jersey is going to be retired. And I don't think I've officially gotten your response to all of that kind of talk. We haven't. Our last talk was, sadly, I think New Year's Eve was the last time we recorded together. Um, so, what was? Did you catch any of that game? What were kind of your thoughts about that D Rose game, where they welcomed him back and he kind of had some great words talking to PJ and everything? And then we kind of saw a bunch of other clips and stuff around that week as well. So, just kind of curious, being you're wearing red, you're wearing Bulls are in the background. And just what is your thoughts on everything?
It was definitely a great move by the Bulls organization to to appropriately commemorate this guy, given him based on or touching on some talks that we had early on in our podcast days about D Rose going to the Hall of Fame, certainly adding to the Hall of Fame momentum here. It was enough. It was enough of a motivational speech to propel the Bulls to get a win that night. Um, yeah, that was a really solid game for them. Really high scoring game in general. One of the many kind of like obscure losses recently for the Knicks that kind of make you wonder about them. Um, but yeah, no, I mean no, I mean nothing other than good feelings and honestly, it feels like something that should have happened. So I'm glad that D Rose has his name up in the rafters. Uh,
I don't know.
wish he could have had more playoff games, more healthy playoff games with the Bulls, but yeah, no, definitely deserving.
Absolutely. I don't know if you saw the clip of him telling Jerry Reinsdorf that he didn't want a statue. He's like, no statue, no statue. After the last few I've seen, no statue. So, as much as people have said that they wanted a D-Rose statue on the other side of where Jordan's is, he doesn't want one there. So, I find that quite funny. They'll get something. There'll be some sort of plaque or commemorative D-Rose thing that'll be there, I'm sure. The last NBA note that I have before I bring us down into some other basketball stuff was over the last 2 weeks. And this is somebody, again, that we could probably have a full episode on, and we probably will. Excuse me. Victor Wembanyama played his like 100th basketball game. And the stats that were coming from it were just insane. I don't have them in front of me, but I can remember them off the top of my head, at least a few of them. He has more points in 100 games than LeBron James. He has more three-pointers in his first 100 games than Steph Curry. He has more blocks than Hakeem Olajuwon, and I believe he has more rebounds than Patrick Ewing. It is just remarkable what he's doing. And the fact that we're seeing more like Chet Holmgren, Zach Eady's, and this body type is kind of taking over. And obviously, like the greatest freak right now, Giannis, was kind of the first one to kind of put us onto this 7 footer. I guess KG was kind of in that same way, just that length and kind of that alien look. But yeah, Wemby
Yeah, I
just
would say maybe even KD. I would add KD to that list
yes, yes,
in terms
yes.
of a guy with that prototype with like guard skills.
Mm-hmm. Just there was, and the fact that he's only getting better, he's only getting bigger and stronger as these things go, and his skills are just getting better. So, but yeah, Victor Wembanyama, simply amazing. I'm excited to see kind of where the Spurs kind of finish out this season, and then his growth over next off season with a full off season, like not playing Olympic basketball. And kind of the same for a lot of these guys. I hope a lot of them take a break and come back, and we have a most even more ridiculous NBA season next year. So, any comments on that, or I'm going to move on to some G League stuff that I want to hit on for you.
Oh, Wembanyama he was on one of my lists for today as well. We can kind of just knock that one out now.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I won't make it too long, but I don't. Yeah, I was just gonna say how I was gonna bring it up to you was I don't know if you've heard of this Victor Wembanyama guy, but he's playing pretty damn well. He, the sort of like progression of Wemby that we saw at the end of last year, and we said, oh, okay, wow, he can be consistently a really good player. Hopefully, we get to see it for a full season next year. And he kind of had like I almost want to call it like a relaxed start where he was. We all said the same thing. He was shooting too much, but lately, he has seemed to harness his inner Anthony Davis, something that I have been touting since the first time I saw him. I'm like, if he can just pull off the Anthony Davis move, where he essentially, I mean, I don't know how much AD you've watched, but especially in his like Rondo pairing days, he does this. He does the best alley oop I've ever seen with his giant go gadget reach, where he doesn't go for the big powerful highlight slam. He just kind of put the ball near the hoop in like the trajectory almost can look like a shot, and I can just reach up and guide it in, and I don't have to expend that much energy to do it. We're starting to see Victor do those things. Now it's a little bit harder for him with his frame to get that close to the basket. Everybody's going to shove him out, and fairly effectively thus far throughout his career. But when he gets a more favorable matchup, he's and especially when he finds himself in a mismatch, he's just kind of recognizing those moments a little bit better. He's spinning off of guys sometimes with the ball in his hands. Even it's impressive to watch. He needs to keep trying to finish near, around, at the basket. I feel like it's only going to add more to his offense. I don't know if he was just trying to avoid injury in the first portion of the season, and that's why he was acting like I don't know. He was acting like Kyle Korver for a little bit there, but yeah, no, I want to see more of it. I think Spurs obviously are flirting with 500, flirting with playing territory. I really think that it's something that we can see them keep up.
Yeah, no, to me it's been fun to watch his. It's funny because I feel like his defense can get even better, which is like a scary thing to say because like the amount of blocks that he can get. And I'm
Four. He's
when I
he's
watched
blocking 4 shots a game currently. He's
and
climbed up
it,
to 4. Usually guys start with the big number and then it kind of trickles down towards the mean. He's climbing up to 4 as the season has gone on.
and I feel like it's going to keep going up just because he's going to learn how to play guys better. I think like the what I've noticed at least over the last maybe 2 weeks is a lot more people being aggressive at him at the hole and trying to dunk on him and do different things. And I think he's going to start learning how to attack that. And like I said before, he's going to put on some more weight next year. He's going to be a little bit beefier, even as skinny as he's going to look. He's going to feel stronger and be able to be more aggressive at the hole when guys are trying to get up there and to dunk on him. I think he's going to have, to me, there, like I said, his defense can get so much better. His on ball defense can get better. Even though he's still really good, the fact that he can guard guards is scary to think of. So yeah, it's we're watching an alien on the court, and or just it's this new style of like, let's stretch somebody out as long as we can and still make them agile and not feel he doesn't look clumsy when he plays. It's like I've played with so many guys where they're 6'4" and they don't even know how to handle themselves, and this guy's 7'4" and he's like just gliding across the floor. So it's so fun to watch. But
I'm
again,
glad I'm
yeah,
glad you brought the defense because I was focusing on a very specific part of his offense and not even bringing up the best attribute of his game where he is a defense of unto himself. That I
yeah,
mean, I don't even think that the thing is I don't even think he realizes to what degree. I don't think his teammates realize to what degree. I don't think there's been an adjustment yet to just like how good he can be as the core of the defense just because of how much ground he can cover. I mean, it's obvious that he's just simply not allowing next to anything at the rim when he's out there. Um, he
you need
uh,
to go.
he had this. What's that?
Did you need to go check on that?
I really do need to go check on that. But one thing I want to say, he had this. Was it against Jalen Wells when they played the Grizzlies the other day? He had like 10 to 12 feet of space, and he threw up a three. Nobody near him. It would if according to the advanced stats matrix, it would have been considered a wide open three, and Victor just jumped lean forward and blocked the dang thing. It was absolutely amazing. They didn't keep himself composed in that fourth quarter enough to win the game, but yeah, just you see stuff like that, and if you feel like if they could just be consistent enough, you sort of see like the pathway of them, creating like a winning team. A winning team long term around
So
him.
let's wrap up some fast break news. As I'm sure Bobby knows, as I've hit him up with so many different things. I've been visiting the Windy City Bulls and checking out a lot of G League action. So I needed to mention some G League notes that I had. Um, and I lied earlier. I did have a second Timberwolves note because our guy, Mr. Rob Dillingham, was sent down to the G League. Um, he hasn't really had much time, it seems, and Chris Finch has definitely kind of kept that rotation pretty tight. It's pretty much Minot's really the only one, aside from the core group of guys, that's on that third lineup that actually gets any type of playing time. Um, so he got sent down to the G League. Uh, One of the other notes was that the Mexican City League set the new attendance record for the G League. They had a game which had 19,328 at it. In retrospect, for me, the best one the Windy City Bulls have done is like 4,000. It was like 4321, I think, was the most that I've seen at a game. So we
Hi,
got
caramba.
some work to do here in Chicago and some of these
Mhm.
other areas. So
Are you moving to Mexico?
no, not yet. I might fly there. I might go visit. I might do some on location in Mexico City, some G League coverage. That would be a rough, real rough visit. Uh, Last note I had for you, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. Cooper Flag, Duke, go.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously seen as like a number one, number two pick. He's had some great games recently for Duke. I've checked out some of the highlights. I haven't really watched any live college basketball games so far this year.
Same.
That said, I do foresee Cooper Flag as being a solid NBA player. I feel like we have a lot to see on his development yet. I do question some of the athleticism as it translates to the NBA. He's obviously a great size. He looks
Is it because
big
he's
and
white?
strong. No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. You might say that. I wouldn't say
Whoa!
that.
I can say whatever I want. I'm both. So
I
you can
no
call
no
him
no.
out.
It's I just so he's one of those players who he's obviously a high value because he's like a big wing player who could do a lot. That said, he's tell me one thing he's exceptional at. He's really good at a lot of things. Tell me the one thing that he's exceptional at. I wouldn't consider him the greatest shooter. He's not going to play point guard. He's not the most athletic guy. So he's not the best rim protector. I foresee him doing a lot of things really well in the NBA, and certainly that's not to take away from his work ethic. I don't know. I don't know the guy personally. Maybe he's a super hard worker and he's going to develop skills that we can't predict in the future and become this stellar NBA player. I kind of see him becoming a little bit more of a like solid starter, solid rotational player. That is with what I'm seeing so far. I know that's kind of a bold take, but yeah, I don't see him as like the star of a team, leading a team to winning record in the NBA just yet.
Okay. I've seen 0 minutes of him, so I have uh, no on court evidence to say anything. All of mine is all super superficial stuff. I don't know if I caught a really good story of Brian Scalabrine when he discovered him and took him down to his camp and kind of took him through the ringer. And to me, it just sounds like this kid just thinks it's the same mentality that we saw in starting five with Anthony Edwards, is that he doesn't matter who's on the court, like he's going to be the best guy, or that the confidence that he's going to be able to do whatever he needs to do on the court. is regardless of who is guarding him or who else is on the court. So I'm very curious to see just his demeanor and his vibe on the floor. And like you said, if it's one of those where he's not passing that eye test, but yet is still kind of racking up points. It's funny. We were just talking about G League stuff, and one of the players, it's like you don't even realize, and it's like, oh, you had like a sleepy 21 points, and I feel like if he is that kind of player, that's not terrible. I feel like if you can be that stealthy kind of guy that can sneak in and get 23, 24 points and people don't even realize that you even played, then yeah, you're going to collect a check. You're going to do great. But at least from the stuff that I'm hearing, it doesn't seem like he has that mentality. He wants to be more than that. And I think sometimes that might supersede your physical abilities. Sometimes it's that belief. But granted, we saw that with Ryan Leaf and we've seen it before with other busts. So it's, even though I wouldn't put him anywhere near the category of a bust, he's definitely seems to be living up to the hype after at least holding his own against the Olympic team, and then now playing at obviously a powerhouse in Duke and seems to be one of the leaders of that team. So that in itself proves that this kid's definitely not a bust. So I'm curious to see what more he has to offer.
Yeah. And you know, when I look at the Magic, for example, I kind of start to see maybe some potential NBA comparisons there with their big wing duo, Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner. I kind of see him as like somewhere in between there. And I just named off like two really good players, two guys who we expect to make all-star teams at some point
Mhm.
in their career. I mean, maybe less so Franz, but even so, so, you know, I'm not trying to say he's a bad player. He's obviously not. He deserves to be a top 3 pick in this draft at to this point. So yeah. So I don't want to I'm like retracting on what I was saying before. But yeah, I definitely see him as being this like high level player, but you know, sort of like a jack of all trades, but not necessarily a number one guy. For
You heard
those
it
of
here
you
first.
who are not watching but just listening, Ronnie has discovered that he can manipulate graphics on this sort of like recording studio we use, and he just wrote a funny little caption up there.
All right. Well,
You
that's
can
all I
say it
got
if
for
you want.
fast break news today. uh, let's get on to the next topic. Next. All right. Let's get into some trivia brought to you by T4 Medical. All right. Thankfully, after your last break, you gave me some time to do some research. And so this one, I'm it's got all big names on it. So this one, it's a full range.
So you're saying
And I'm
if I
curious
get
to
it
know,
wrong, then then I should be very disappointed in
then you're
myself. That
an
was me putting my
idiot.
thinking cap on, by the way. Hold on, let me just there we
Okay,
go. There
okay.
we go.
Yes. For the audience and the video listeners, we didn't know. Um, I need you to give me the top 10 NBA players who've made the most free throws. And to give you a
NBA
reference,
players who have made the most free throws. Okay.
the most made free throws in NBA history. That's how I should have phrased it. I apologize. Uh, Shaq is 27th on this list, and that is the one and only hint that I will give you at around 5,000 is what his number was at.
I assume that if you looked at total free throws attempted, he would be much higher on that list.
Yes, yes. So this is free throws made. Sorry, Shaq.
All right. Well, right off the so 10. You want me to get to 10? I mean, right off the
Well,
bat, I'm gonna throw out. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that's fine. We'll do this like last time. They will populate over here in post production. So just start rifling them off. Give me all of your biggest names. I'd say there are 3 old school names on this list. The majority are '90s, and today's players.
Okay. I mean, the three that I'm going to rattle off real quick are Kobe, MJ, and LeBron.
Okay, so we were different on old school when you say. So Kobe, yes, Kobe is number 4 with 8,378 free throws made. What was your next one?
LeBron
LeBron is number 3 at 8,503.
and MJ.
Michael Jordan, number 7, 7,327. So you've got 3, 4, and 7.
That's not too bad. Um, James Harden.
Ooh, good answer. He's number 5. That was like my surprise one when I saw him there. 7887. So you got 1 and
I
2,
yeah, that's
6,
crazy that
8,
that
9, 10.
how are those not just jumping out to me right away? In terms of like newer players, I wouldn't be surprised if DeRozan's on that list. Did DeMar DeRozan make the top 10?
No.
Okay.
And you kind of hit my ones playing currently. There's one current player playing left. Everyone else is retired.
Left. Left. Who has played a lot of games and shot a lot of free throws? I do not think Durant would make this list. Do not, because he. Oh,
He did.
is
He's
it
number
KD?
10. KD is
That no
10,
kid.
7150.
He's not a high free throw rate guy, so that is surprising to me. Okay, so Chris Paul. Chris Paul would have been my next guess, but that's not on the list. Okay.
No. I'm gonna give
Um,
you we're gonna do this. You've got five guesses left.
and how many spots to fill? 5 more.
With 5 spots to fill.
All right, it's killing me that I haven't got number 1 and number 2. But with that, well, let's just start throwing out some high scoring players here. Karl Malone,
Number 1 at
nice.
9787.
Kareem.
Just Kareem does not make this list. I believe he
That would have been
was
the one I would have very intentionally left off. I would have very intentionally left him off if I had more than 5 guesses. Well, anyway.
Kareem was 13th, tied for 13th with Dolph Shays.
Dirk. Does Dirk make the list?
Dirk does make this list. Number 8, 7240. So you're missing 2, 6, and 9. And these are the 3 old school players that I was talking about.
Old school players that shot a lot of free throws. Larry Bird.
He's not even in the top 40.
Yeah, he didn't get enough volume in his career.
Too smooth.
That's what it was. Couldn't be catched. Let's see who old. And when you say old school, are you like saying like pre-90s or
Pre-80s.
oh pre? Okay, wow. Wilt Chamberlain.
Nope. Wilt is 24th.
Wow. Well, was that? Am I out of guesses?
Sure. So number there's a lot of dead air there.
Who wanted who wanted to get me out of that quicker, me or you? All right, go ahead.
So number 9, I share this last name, Mr. Jerry West. The logo.
Oof, yeah. Okay.
This guy, he had 7160. Number 6 is Oscar Robertson at 7694. Number 2, Moses Malone at 9,018. So yes, that is your Most all-time free throws made. And that's your trivia brought to you by T4 Medical.
Now getting into some more NBA topics, things that we haven't covered thus far in Fast Break News. One that I guess we could start with is Memphis, keeping my eye on them. And recently, with some of the games I've been watching, I've been asking myself, how high am I on this team at this point in the season? Essentially, where I projected Memphis early on in the year. I said I think they're going to be a sneaky like top 4 seed. I was giving them that, and they thus far have been performing. That said, how do I think that this is going to continue throughout the rest of the season? And do I think that they are going to be a legitimate Western Conference finalist contender? This this is something that kind of came up to it's something that sort of came to the surface of my brain a little bit more as folks were listing Memphis as perhaps the most favorite team to land Jimmy Butler, or the one that could put together the best package. And I thought to myself, like, well, why would they do that? Do they need Jimmy Butler? And the more thought I've put into this, the more I've watched them. It does kind of seem that when Memphis is rolling against other teams, you could see why they're a great regular season team. They are super deep. They have a lot of talent across the board. They have a decent amount of shooting, um, but but as you get further down, you start to see, how many guys on this squad do I expect to actually penetrate the lane, get into the paint, put pressure on the rim. Ja obviously is the number one guy on that squad. He does it exceptionally well, but just even though he's more athletic and shiftier than perhaps anybody else in the entire league, and not to mention has I'm pretty sure he's like half cat, just the way he can spring up. He's made out of rubber bands. Uh, but that said, when he's up against teams with bigger, more athletic guys, good perimeter defenders, you can see that some games he does have a hard time getting those easier buckets around the rim. And then when it's not him, then who? I know I've mentioned in the past that Triple J this year in particular, I've liked how well he's been attacking. He's got this sort of like back to the basket game that seems to start like out like from like the free throw line basically, um, and he's excelled at that. But I think in the perfect scenario, a guy like Triple J is going to be on like a high level, championship contender type team, is going to be ideally your third offensive option. And so how do they get another number 1B type guy on that team? And or do we feel like what they have is enough to get them deep into the playoff, assuming health withstanding for come April. I that's kind of where I was on that. I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
No, I think Memphis is a curious one when your leading scorer has 22 points a game. Usually that's not a good thing, but that team has like it's so spread out. I think it's it's almost like a detriment or like it's we sit here and we say that they need a number one, but yet this coach has provided this team with such depth. It's like you looking at the stats and it looks like everyone is contributing every game. Like you've got guys going down three, four, five, six, seven. Sorry. It looks like 12 guys are giving you 7 points a game. Like that's ridiculous. Like the fact that you have that much production from so many people, and but yet it's like like we mentioned, you I just saw an eye test, and like Santi Aldama is your fourth leading scorer on the team. So to me, it's like that shouldn't be the case. There should be other people that are contributing. versus this guy that I just thought, oh, he's got like a nice touch and can hit some shots from the outside when, and he's one of your top scorers. Like that to me is it's suspect. Granted, good on them for being able to piece this together. Granted, you've got the superstar in job, but somehow he's only averaging 21 points a game. So to me, like
Yeah.
there's no consistent like knowing like, oh, he's gonna be there and he can put 30 up in a game. And granted, he has had his times, but it's like that there's gonna if he's putting up 30 or 40 in games and averaging 20, that means he's having games where he's only putting up 5 points a game or less. So to me it's and granted if he's coming back and still getting his legs back under him, maybe that's part of it. But yeah, I think there's definitely a need to have that person who's going to come in there and put up those high 20s on a consistent night, um, for them to be a team that's going to advance in the playoffs, because it's you can't in the playoffs you can't just keep throwing bench players at people and think that you're going to succeed with with, with matchups the entire night. So I think it's and granted you've got Zach Edey at like just under 10 points a game, and he's like eighth on the team. So obviously, he's somebody that's going to be on the floor. So they've got a lot of pieces. And so it's curious to see where this goes the rest of the season.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, and I know you say no credit to Santi Aldama because the Memphis Grizzlies are known recently, at least for cultivating young talent. They've had some misses, but I mean, what even like Jake LaRavia, is another guy you can mention who just looks
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen Jr. They're kind of like he was kind of hanging out in the G League, had some time with the Lakers, but they're like reviving him. They're
Marcus
really
Smart,
good.
Jay Huff. It's like
Well,
there's plenty of names
so
on.
Marcus Smart would be, I feel like, the guy that Jimmy Butler would replace because
Mm,
when I talk about like who's like their secondary ball handler, he was supposed to be that guy, and now we know Marcus Smart is not like a spectacular offensive player, but as a former defensive player of the year and a guy who has functioned well on high level teams, a Boston team that made a run to the finals, he you were hoping that he would fit very very well with this team, and it Boston clearly got off of him at the right time. I don't know if it's just injury related or it's just maybe seeing him in a different system just hasn't worked as well. That said, when I was so some of the recent games I was referring to, and I have kind of zoomed in on the Grizzlies a little bit recently, but they played recently the Rockets twice, who are above them in the standings. That's basically the team for them to beat right now. They lost both of those games. They were close games, but they lost both of those games. And then in between that, they squeaked out a win against the Timberwolves. And just kind of based on what I was saying earlier, I'm sure you watched that game, but the reason they won that game was because Ja had like these two heroic, number one on like the highlight reel type plays down the stretch of the game, buckets that they really really needed because I felt like Minnesota had the upper hand during that game, especially down the stretch. I really did, and I felt like that the Grizzlies were kind of falling into this sort of like uh, they were like in 3-point jail where they just like didn't feel like they could generate any other type of shot other than throw the ball around, try to see what you could do, throw the ball around. All right, somebody shoot a 3-pointer, and they'll get into these stretches for long periods of time. And I can see, if they're hitting that night, great, it's going to look awesome. But when they're not, it's going to look really sloppy and juvenile. And I worry about that moving forward. Maybe Jimmy Butler wouldn't be the worst fit for them. Doesn't quite fit their timeline, but maybe somebody that they can borrow for a little bit to help boost their team and sort of work against the anti-Memphis point that I'm making here. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Memphis currently. Really exciting team to watch, but I do have some questions still.
no, I like it. What's your next point over there?
Which both of these winning streaks have ended, but which one was more real? The Sacramento Kings 7-game winning streak or the Pacers 6-game winning streak of late?
Oof. I like the Pacers. I think they they have a much easier path in the East, I think, to actually do something. Um, I think Sacramento kind of was riding the new coach wave and kind of new energy. There was something that kind of they were playing for something new. Um, is that sustainable? I don't know. Um, I think I shouldn't say I think. I definitely know I caught more Pacers games in the last couple weeks than Kings games, so I can't really say that I could see what was really going on with the Kings. Obviously, if you look back, we've both have had high things to say about the Kings. It's just it seems meshing all of that talent together is tricky, and having solid late game defense as well. And I think those not having those has been an issue for the Kings. Um, Whereas the Pacers, I find the Pacers really fun to watch. I think they're an exciting team. Um, Halliburton, I don't think gets enough credit as being an amazing point guard. With like, he's he's not doing Trey Young assist numbers, but I feel like he's in that top three conversation, three or four, as far as like this season as being one of the best assist guys, creating shots for other people, um, while still maintaining his ability to get his own shot. Yeah, I really like the Pacers. Like we said before, discovering the 0-0-0 to me was a fun
Mhm.
new thing that made me want to. I'll watch these guys a little bit more. They're fun, so it brought me in, and yeah, they're. To answer your question, I would say the Pacers.
Yeah, I honestly no arguments there. It turns out that if Tyrese Halliburton plays good offense, that this team can play really, really well. We've kind of been like waiting. Where's the Tyrese of last year before his injury? Where's the Tyrese of last year? And he did give us a scare recently with some. He had to sit on the last of that winning streak with some left hamstring soreness, but in spite of that, he was throwing up like a 2010 month thus far in January throughout this winning streak. And I mean, they looked good. Their defense has been really solid too, though. They've been holding teams. I mean, 3 of those games they held the team under 100 points. I mean, it was Brooklyn, Golden State, but Cleveland as well. They the streak ended with their subsequent game. They had essentially not a back to back, but they had back to back games against Cleveland, and Cleveland came back and got the win on the other end of the doubleheader, if you will. But yeah, I mean they've beaten some good teams along the way. I would like to see more of this from the Pacers. I do feel like they are a team just based on last year that this rendition of them at full strength could do some damage in the playoffs. Not as hopeful about the Kings. Really love the win streak coming off the new coach, but that actually is something that has historically happened time and time again in the past with a coaching change. No discredit to Mike Brown either. I mean, he won Coach of the Year a couple years ago for a reason. So, but yeah, I guess they just needed to change the guards. Mostly Sacramento needed to blame somebody for their terrible DeRozan pickup. That just makes no sense for that team. But yeah, no, I mean, who knows? Who knows? I'm excited to see more. We'll see. We'll see what's still in store for them. Um, Speaking of teams out east, one of which who fell to the Pacers tonight, Detroit. Are they, in fact, playoff bound? Um, After that loss tonight, they sit. Hold on. Computer's being slow. I forgot what I'm doing here. They sit at the number 9 spot. They moved down after that loss. 21-20. We're at the halfway point of the season, and they are above 500, and they've gone 7-3 in their past 10 games. I don't know if you've checked in on the Pistons lately, if you've been seeing what Cade Cunningham's been up to, but they have been looking solid. They have been looking solid, and I think Cade Cunningham is somebody who might open up the All-Star talk a little bit here out in Detroit.
Hey, I voted for him, so I have to give it up for that. Unfortunately, you mentioned like seeing the Timberwolves. I've missed the last two Timberwolves Saturday night games because I was at the Windy City Bulls game. So I missed them playing the Grizzlies and I missed them playing the Pistons. Both games they lost. So, and when I was listening to the announcers doing the games earlier in the week, they were raving about Cade Cunningham and his ability. I think he probably had like high 30s in that game. Um, but no, I have not given enough uh, Detroit love, and I need to. So it's one of those that they're usually by the time I'm settling in, their game is wrapping up. So I need to make sure that I get in and get that early 6 p.m. game typically that they're playing at, because usually I'm getting ready to watch some basketball at like 8:15, and it's usually just the final whistle. But no, they're to me that's I guess that's one of those who makes the playoffs, the Pistons or the 76ers, because right now the Pistons are 9, the Sixers are 11. So the Sixers have definitely clawed their way back into the conversation and will continue. Um, but no, it's a fun story. What are they? They're 4 away from smearing my over under. Because I think you set it at like 25, and I said, no way, that's way too many. And here we are, like you said, halfway into the season, and they've got 21 wins and are above 500. So good job to them. Good job on that front office for piecing this team together and kind of creating something that's competitive. So good job, Pistons.
Now, you made me want to take a look real quick at the Pistons schedule. Towards the end of the year, it looks like for the rest of the season, in fact, they only have one game left against the Sixers, and that's coming up. That is in February,
Big game
in Detroit, February 7th. It's actually on ESPN. Wow. Okay. Well done.
They know.
But it does get a little saucy. So the last 2 games of the season for the Pistons are also the last 2 games of the season for the Bucks. They got back-to-back games on April 11th and 13th, and
Well,
so in terms of teams that are kind of hanging out around that 500, I mean we'll see. But that's a lot of games left
I think
until we
that's
get to
good
that
for
point.
them. I feel
That
like the
could get
Bucks would have
interesting.
stuff wrapped up and would be resting people then. So
You hope. I mean, you hope if you've been a longtime fan of Giannis and Dame and have put a lot
well,
of faith in them.
they're sitting fourth. They've managed to get themselves back. So I'm not saying Doc and Darvin for Coach of the Year, but I think they're gonna be the Bucks of old that we kind of the Bucks are gonna be who we expected the Bucks to be. They are who we thought they were.
Thus far, yeah, they're looking good. All right. So moving on. Let's see. What is a good one? All right. This has been a hot topic lately, but are the Cavs, as I wrote down on my notepad here, world beaters? Are you willing to put them in that top tier? Everybody is quick to say Boston for sure, and then out west OKC as
Well, did
as
they
their
just
favorites.
they've lost to OKC twice in the last, or no, they beat OKC.
Yes. So the first, so they've, so yeah, so they just lost to OKC tonight by a lot. They were whomped. OKC was
Lost by
up
20.
by at least, yeah, they were. Well, that's actually that's a huge swing in the fourth quarter for the Cavs because OKC was up by at least 40 at one point. I didn't. I mean, we've been working on this, so I didn't get to tune into that game super well, but that was quite the showing from the Thunder based on their previous game, which was very close from start to finish. The Cavs were able to squeak it out. They looked amazing. But I mean, I would say, in spite of tonight's loss, I think at this point, again, we're at the halfway point, just about almost for the Cavs, one game away from the halfway point of the season. With them still having, uh, essentially a league leading offense, seeming like their continuity is really paying off. The fact that Donovan Mitchell doesn't even have to have a lot of big games for them to pull out all these wins. At one point, they were at what, a 71 win pace. Um, I feel like they're the real deal. I do think that even in this like pace and space era, even though they have like the twin tower thing going on, I think Evan Mobley's, I think his scoring threat around the hoop, his efficiency around the hoop, sort of helps space the floor a little bit because defenses have to take him very seriously down low. And he got a 3 in the key called on him the other day when I was watching the Cavs game, which is not something you see too often these days. But that's how much he's hanging out in the paint. Is that he's camping out down there, and he's just waiting for the ball to be diet Giannis on opposing teams.
Well,
No, I mean that's kind of a short take on the Cavs and what I'm seeing thus far. But no, go ahead, take it away,
Well, that wasn't a short take. To answer your
Because
question,
there's so many good things to say about this team. There's
okay,
so many
okay,
good things to say about this team.
I'm gonna go full Stephen A. You asked the question: are the Cavs world beaters? My answer is no, they're not. Are they a great team? Are they a fun team? Yes, I think they have the pieces in place to make a run, but I think for them, they don't have that. They haven't made a run already. I feel like the Celtics are. If once they meet the Celtics have already been there, and I think that they're going to run over. I'm not going to say they're going to run over them, but I feel like it's a 5-6 game series for the Celtics. We're going to find out coming up this in February kind of what happens. These teams have split. So far, they've each won a game. But then February 4th and 28th, we've got 2 more matchups with these 2 teams. And I think those are going to be very telling. Um, do I think the Cavs will be in the Eastern Conference Finals? There's a high possibility that they're going to be there. Do I think that they're world beaters and are going to beat the Celtics or whoever else in the East, the top, and then beat the best in the West? I do not see them doing that this year. I could see them doing that maybe next year if all of those pieces are still in place. Just having that continuity, having that chance that you took that run, you learn from it. It's just you don't usually see that click. It happens that first year, and then they go and beat the world, because that was your question, that they're going to beat everybody. And I just don't see that happening.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's see what else. What else should we talk about? How concerned are you about Luka's injury? He had a calf strain. That's what they're calling it anyway on Christmas, and we've all seen clips of him. Even up to a couple weeks later, limping on the sidelines, not being able to put any weight on it, using his scooter, and now the Mavs are dealing with Kyrie, who has a bulge disc, which could mean a lot of things, but. So he's been sort of in and out of the lineup as well, and they've been relying on a lot of their non-superstar squad. And just to, again, bear with me as I slowly pull up the standings here, but that has put them, a little bit further down in the West since the injuries started to pile up, and currently they are sitting at 7 at 22 and 19. Which is sort of the middle of the pack as we expected, where they are a game and a half behind the 4 seed Denver Nuggets, but also only 2 games ahead of the 12th seed San Antonio Spurs. Now, um, now Luka is not set to return. I think optimistically until maybe like mid-November. We shall see, sometime around the All-Star break. So, in my opinion,
There's
very concerning stuff. I just curious what your thoughts are on that as well.
no, as soon as I hear somebody say the scooter, I obviously being someone who's torn both Achilles and it's a calf strain, and I just had Christian McCaffrey on my fantasy team dealing with uh, what was it, the stiffness in Achilles stiffness. So I think these athletes, and even if you're one of the best ones in the world, like a Kobe Bryant, there's a good chance you could tear your Achilles. So, and I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just saying that area is definitely one of those when you play basketball, there's so much high impact of the jumping. If you think about the actual physical, like I'm going to run down the floor, I'm going to jump straight up and then come back down. And then I'm going to run this way and jump up and come back down. And sometimes there's somebody underneath me and I got to move around them in air and then land awkwardly and still manage to maintain my balance and ligament structures. So to me, yes, I would be concerned. I think hearing those things that he's limping uh, days or weeks after an injury, to me, it's one of those where obviously it's lingering. And these guys they've got the best health and fitness nutritionists around, so obviously they're going to be taking care of their bodies. And if there's still an issue this far, then to me that's concerning for sure. And if they're saying the All-Star break is like February 17th or so, or is that your birthday? I know that's March. So there's there is some time. Um, if that's like a month away, that he's going to come back, and if he's already still limping or in a scooter right now, I don't know if that's plausible.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you had the revelation that there's still time for you to think of my birthday present. But that said,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, you did say that. One thing I agree with you got to be careful with calf injuries. Now, I think that if we're going to take seriously the way the injury report is, which is very vague on purpose, you can tell it's probably more of a muscle belly injury as opposed to like a tendon injury. You hope anyway, but it's significant enough that he was clearly on a lot of pain of recent. I guess the big concern for me too is that Luca, one of the things that people have always been criticizing for is his level of conditioning. And if mid-season he's gonna take on an injury that prevents him from doing any like high level conditioning, you got to get really creative if one of your legs isn't working. Then yeah,
well,
I'm
and it's
just
also
curious
how
what version of Luca we're gonna get back in preparation for the playoffs.
no, absolutely. I'm just thinking too, and as we sit here as both what 5'8", 5'7", well under 200 pounds.
I think you're giving me too much credit, but go ahead.
I'm saying me well under 200 pounds. Uh, he's somebody, his body, he's 6'6", 230. Like to me, that amount of weight and pressure is always going to be added to these injuries that I think us normal people, when we, or any fan that starts complaining, it's like you have a completely different body than what these guys have. Seeing them up close and watching these guys, are you doing a physical activity and then deciding to do a workout afterwards? Like, no, these guys are high performance machines, and I'm even like the G League ones are. That's like I can't even imagine like the NBA ones just because they're bigger, faster, stronger. So um, the the amount of impact that that large calf is dealing with, I'm sure, is one that none of us can really understand. So I wish him luck in getting healthy. Obviously, When you first mentioned it, a T-Wolves fan, like was like, oh yeah, I hope he's out for a while, kind of tucked in. But I realized I'm a journalist. I need to think accordingly. So I hope he gets better.
No, that did not sound convincing at all. No emotions, no emotions. Well, we can't end on that note. I have like three more things on this list, but we can't get to all of them. We'll start with a happy one, or we'll end with a happy one. Denver, Denver. I mentioned that they're sitting fourth in the West right now. During a season where we've been sort of criticizing, at least for the past couple of years, the moves that the Nuggets have been making, seeming to be a little bit cheap for a team that just won a championship, and for a 3 out of 4 season, maybe 4 out of 5 season MVP who's at the top of his game right now. And yet here we stand, 24-16. And that's with Jokic missing some games recently for various minor issues. Can they continue on this trajectory? Can they separate themselves from that pack that we mentioned that seems to pop up in the West every year, where you have a couple bad games and you can drop from 4th to 12th with, just if you blink your eyes. Can they stay up there, and can they separate themselves a little bit with as currently constructed?
Oh, I feel like they have the potential to do it. Like you said, as constructed now, I would say yes. I think they can. Obviously, the West is tough. I haven't done my due diligence and looked at the standings probably for like 3 days, and I'm super surprised to see the Suns not like down at 11th, and then the Spurs too. So it's like you've got 12 solid teams in the West. So to me, it's do they stay top 4 the whole year? I My gut unfortunately says yes. I think that they're good enough to, if they stay healthy. Um, to me, it's, are the Clippers going to stay there? Are the Mavericks going to get healthy? Are they going to fall out if Luka doesn't? What are the Timberwolves going to do? And the Lakers? To me, both of them are, who
Jimmy
knows what.
Butler. Timberwolves are
Yeah,
getting Jimmy Butler.
no, I don't think that's happening. Um,
Can they trade their 2035 pick yet?
why did we have no more picks to send? Like all of our picks that we just sent away is now playing in the G League. So to me, like, yeah, no, thank you. So yeah, to me, I think the Nuggets are in decent shape. Do I see them going to the top of the standings? No, I don't see them overcoming the Thunder, the Grizzlies, and the way the Rockets are playing. I don't know. And to me, like their ceiling is 4. Um, and can they stay there? That's a question. But do I see them going higher? No. So if that was
Yeah.
your happy question, will they be a top 4 team? Then I guess yes.
Well, I guess so. So one thing that I love about the NBA is that usually in any given season, you'll have at least one team that has a player on it that is so good that the team will play above expectations and seem to claw themselves out and sort of play as underdogs, even though they have like the best player, seem to play as underdogs and be able to beat teams that as a whole are better than them, but just because they have that one good player. And that's one of our favorite narratives as fans to see throughout the season. And so I am thoroughly impressed with how the Nuggets have been doing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's a few. If we went down their schedule, I'm sure that there's a few games that they wish they could have had back. There's definitely some games that they've lost recently just because they haven't had their guys out there. Aaron Gordon is hoping to make a return here soon. But the dynamic between Westbrook and Jokic is working. I mean, we know that Jokic makes everybody better, but we didn't know he can make this guy better. And that's, I know we know Russell Westbrook. He's a very interesting player at the top of his game. He can win an MVP. But then, when he as it tends to average out, he does a lot of frustrating things that make you wonder if he's a guy that can really contribute to like high level winning. But put him next to Jokic, and I mean that ball moves. That ball moves so well, and I don't think Russ. I don't think he minds passing the ball to Jokic for an easy assist either. Um,
Yeah, no,
but yeah,
I got to give Russell his flowers. I'm usually bagging on him. He looks like he's having fun playing basketball, which is not usually what you see. It's usually like whether it's him having fun off the court, I think is probably what I'm seeing more so versus he's still an angry, aggressive player on the court, but it seems like he's more free and having just more fun playing basketball versus the places where he's been where the other stars he didn't seem maybe were more ball dominant and weren't as unselfish as playing with a player like Jokic. Um, the one thing I did want to throw to you that is kind of a hypothetical that I'm curious to know your thoughts on. Who has better fundamentals, Jokic or Tim Duncan?
hmm. I mean, you are talking about Mister Fundamental.
Mr.
Well,
Fundamental, that's something. Should Jokic be taking this over? Because here's a guy, he is a giant blob of a man, unathletic, can't jump, but yet is the most skilled fundamental player on the basketball court. He can find the right player. He knows spacing. He knows where everybody's at. He can put the ball in the right place for the person to score. He can put it in the basket himself. He can get in there and he knows where the ball is going to bounce and rebound. So to me, should the Mr. Fundamental name be, I don't want to say taken, but can it be transferred? Can it be
Mr.
shared?
Fundamental and King Fundamental.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
or is
no,
there a
no,
Croatian
that's a
name
great.
to? Like, I
I
don't
don't
know what
think
it
I don't
is.
talk about dollars in the mispronunciation jar. I
Wrong country.
yeah, I yeah, no, that's a great little thought exercise. If we're talking like purely defensively, I may give the nod to Tim Duncan there, but because Jokic's offensive game is so otherworldly, I think he takes the edge. Yeah, I mean he can make any offense hum seemingly, and it's interestingly enough, we know that he's not a great defensive player. There's so many lowlights in his career of him just getting blown by other dudes. I think some of it's effort based too, because he just realizes like, why am I going to try to put in all my effort on this one play when I know that I'm not likely to stop him? So I'm just going to let him go by me.
Or the fact that he's going to foul if he's going to try to do anything, trying to chase a dude from behind, and then he's not on the court
But
for the
that
rest of the
adds
game.
to the fundamentals. That adds to the fundamental conversation. So it's almost like his choosiness of like when to make the play is him making the right play, even when it seems like he's not doing much. He's like choosing when to put in 100% effort. Yeah, I mean he's absolutely a mastermind of the game. So I nod Jokic. Got to give it to the guy who's won all the MVPs. Hasn't won as many rings as Tim Duncan though, and it's hard to picture a world where he catches him at 5. That's a big number. So but yeah, that's fun. That's fun to talk about. Anyway, I think we can end it on that. You're just killing me with these captions today. I do not hate Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan is one of the better things that's happened to the NBA. I stand by.
All right,
Uh,
we'll
all right,
close it right
folks.
there.
Well, yeah. That's all I got on the main topics for you. Couple of things I left off. We'll have to get into some other time.
Sounds good to me. Whew. All right, that is going to do it for this episode. I want to thank everybody if you've made it this far. We definitely appreciate you guys watching and listening. Um, Make sure you check out all of our stuff on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, if it's still around when you see this. We're going to try to make sure that we get everything out We appreciate everybody who's watching a lot of our YouTube shorts and YouTube stuff and commenting and liking all that stuff. We love it. Keep it up. We want to see more of it. We're excited. I've got G League basketball games more this week. We are seeing there is a 2 game, 2 out of 3 game with the Westchester Knicks. So we're going to learn about them. Lots of basketball to cover, and maybe some Bulls and Wolves and Hornets and whoever else that we kind of come across.
Oh my.
Oh, yes, indeed. Any last thoughts, Bobby?
I second those thank yous and hope to be talking to you guys soon.
All right. Until next time, this has been the Bucket Bros.